This video was brought to you by CuriosityStream. As viewers of the channel probably already know, on Tuesday last week, the People's Liberation Army announced that they'd be performing live-fire military drills around Taiwan, presumably in reaction to Nancy Pelosi's controversial visit. However, when the drills ended on Sunday, the PLA announced that they'd be performing further drills, again around Taiwan, as well as in the Yellow and Bohai Seas. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the CCP's reaction to Pelosi's visit, what it means for China-US relations, and whether we should really be worrying about an invasion in the near future. So before we get into the latest drills, a bit of context. As we explained in our previous videos, last Tuesday the PLA announced that they'd be performing unscheduled live-fire military drills in and around the Taiwan Strait in response to Pelosi's controversial visit on the same day. As Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi is the highest-ranking US official to visit the island since Newt Gingrich made the same trip in 1997. But while Pelosi's trip did have precedent, when news of her plans was first leaked in mid-July, the CCP reacted furiously. Chinese foreign ministers implied that they considered Pelosi's trip a change in US policy towards Taiwan, and Chinese military officials warned that the PLA would respond with, quote, severe consequences. Now, Pelosi claimed in a statement on Tuesday that her trip didn't represent a change in US policy. And, well, she's got a point, given that the CCP were happy for Newt Gingrich to make the same trip 25 years ago. But in reality, an angry reaction from the CCP was always to be expected. Sino-US relations are currently at an all-time low, and relations are particularly tense over the issue of Taiwan. Now, Xi has made it clear that he considers Taiwan's reunification with the mainland one of his primary objectives, and last year refused to rule out using force in order to achieve this end. And that's worrying, because peaceful reunification now looks increasingly unlikely, as Taiwan drifts further away from the mainland. Now, while the two main political parties in Taiwan and most Taiwanese people oppose an explicit formal declaration of independence, the continuing success of Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party, who are more pro-independence than the KMT, and the CCP's attitude on Hong Kong have made peaceful reunification almost impossible. Beijing even severed diplomatic ties with the incumbent DPP in 2016, after President Tsai Ing-wen failed to endorse the idea that both Taiwan and the mainland are part of one China, a concept known as the 1992 Consensus. And it's not only these formal relations which are suffering. Perceptions of the CCP among ordinary Taiwanese people is also souring. According to polling from June, fewer Taiwanese residents identify as Chinese than ever before, with just 2.4% identifying as exclusively Chinese, 30% identifying as both Taiwanese and Chinese, compared to 64% who identify as exclusively Taiwanese. Similarly, Pew Research from 2020 found that Taiwanese residents generally have more favorable views of the US than mainland China. And for his part, Biden has exacerbated tensions over the Taiwan issue by claiming on multiple occasions that the US has a treaty commitment to defend Taiwan in the event of an invasion. Biden first made this claim in August during an interview with ABC, and has reiterated similar sentiments twice since, first in an interview in October, and then at a press conference this May. The problem is that this is both untrue. The Taiwan Relations Act doesn't explicitly require the US to defend Taiwan in the event of an invasion, and it marks a substantial change in the US's policy on Taiwan, which has historically been guided by strategic ambiguity, ever since the US formalized relations with the mainland in 1979. Now, while the White House has tried to repair this diplomatic damage by backtracking every time Biden implied that US policy had changed, Biden's comments have added to a further strain on Sino-US relations over Taiwan. You get the idea then. While Pelosi's trip was consistent with precedent, Sino-US relations are at an all-time low over Taiwan, so an angry response from the CCP was always to be expected. Anyway, when Pelosi arrived in Taipei on Tuesday, the PLA announced that they would be holding live-fire drills around Taiwan, lasting until Saturday. Worryingly, the areas designated for these drills overlapped with Taiwan's territorial waters, something the PLA has never actually done before. During the last Taiwan Strait crisis, which happened in the lead up to the 1996 presidential election, over Taiwan's efforts to distance itself from the mainland, the PLA performed similar drills, but made sure that their live fire exercises didn't incur on Taiwan's territorial waters. However, over the last 5 days of drills, the PLA fired missiles over Taiwan and allegedly simulated an invasion of the island, according to Taipei. China also announced that it will be suspending US-Sino cooperation on a range of issues, including climate, immigration, and matters of international law. Anyway, on Sunday, when the drills were due to end, Taiwan said that the PLA were continuing exercises involving 66 planes and 14 warships in and around the Taiwan Strait. And later that day, Chinese state television confirmed this, saying that the PLA would be conducting, quote, regular drills on the eastern side of the meridian line of the Taiwan Strait from now on, with no timeline for their conclusion. The very same day, Beijing announced that they would be holding further military exercises near the southern part of the Yellow Sea and Bohai near South Korea, beginning on Monday and lasting until September 8th. The same day, Taiwan announced its own naval exercises and announced live-fire artillery drills in southern Pingtung County on Tuesday and Thursday, in response to the Chinese exercises. And worryingly, these naval exercises might overlap with the PLA's ongoing exercises, which were originally due to end on Sunday. Unfortunately though, the PLA have been frustratingly vague about what their continued exercises will actually look like. But if they're in the same areas as the previous ones, then there's a small but non-trivial chance of an accidental altercation between the two militaries, which would be bad news for obvious reasons. So, given the escalation around the Taiwan Strait, what can we expect next from the PLA? Well, despite their belligerence, the PLA have so far refrained from anything that might be interpreted as offensive action towards Taiwan, which suggests that they're unlikely to go for an invasion of either Taiwan or any of the smaller islands currently administered by Taipei. However, the PLA's continuing drills might precede a partial blockade, which would limit Taiwan's ability to export and import goods and demonstrate China's coercive abilities. And Chinese drills have already disrupted shipping on one of the world's busiest waterways, and Taipei has already accused Beijing of blockading its ports. Nonetheless, even if China doesn't go for a full blockade in the coming weeks, the US will be anxious about the PLA's newfound confidence and its willingness to cross not just the meridian line, but also into Taiwan's territorial waters. And they'll be concerned whether these actions represent a permanent change in the status quo. Ultimately, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But if you want more from TLDR, then you should head over to Nebula. You've likely heard us talk about Nebula before, but give me 1 minute to explain why you should care. And as always with TLDR, there's 3 points. Firstly, signing up to Nebula gets you a ton of additional TLDR content. We have a whole bunch of videos exclusively for Nebula, including all of these full-length TLDR videos, as well as exclusive interviews and a bunch of fun videos, like our studio tour and our team attempting the British citizenship test. And that number doesn't even include the daily briefing. So there's a ton of extra TLDR every single day. Secondly, everything on Nebula is ad-free. And that's not just TLDR either. That's all of your favorite creators, like Wendover Productions, Real Life Law, Polymatter, Legal Eagle, Half as Interesting, and many others. And all of this content is ad-free, so there's no mid-rolls, and I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. Thirdly, signing up and watching on Nebula really helps the channel. Here's the maths. TLDR viewers signing up to Nebula has significantly improved our ability to monetize our content, which in turn has allowed us to begin employing more people and investing more in new technology to improve our content. Now, you might not have noticed it immediately, but you will very soon, and signing up is super helpful. So you're convinced, right? Did I do it in a minute? Who knows, this is pre-recorded. Anyway, if you do want to sign up to Nebula, I've got good news, because we've done a deal with CuriosityStream, home to the best documentaries available online. So if you sign up to their streaming service using the link in the description, you'll get CuriosityStream for the crazy low price of $14.79 a year, and you'll also get access to Nebula. That's right, 2 streaming services for less than $1 a month. And by the way, CuriosityStream is awesome. It contains absolutely boatloads of high-quality documentaries on all kinds of topics that I know TLDR viewers are going to love. So if you want to get both for less than $15 a year, then the link is in the description. And if not, well, you can't say I haven't tried to convince you. Thanks for your support.